morning. Welcome to the Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for December 5th, 2024. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, there are speaker request forms on the table along the left wall. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated on the left of the dais. This time we would also like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. Items 1 through 3 have been placed on the consent calendar and may be approved as a group today. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the city council. The city council will make the final decision. Are there any items 1 through 3 that staff would like removed?
Number 2, please.
Are there any items 1 or 3 that any planning commissioner would like removed for separate consideration? And then Haven?
I guess my question,
Sorry, I gotta get you in here. Can you request to talk? Thanks.
just for clarification, Vicki, you removed 2, I believe, right? And I think the letter that we've got deals with 3. We just have a letter here from one of the residents. I believe it deals with 3 on the consent calendar. Is that correct?
Yes. Would you like to pull that?
Yeah, I think we should,
Okay.
in light of the letter that we have in front of us.
All right, so we're down to item number 1. Does anybody from the audience want to pull the minutes for separate consideration? I guess I'd look for a motion then on the minutes.
Item 1.
All right, Vince made the motion to approve item 1, and Brooke seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is a preliminary subdivision plan, and this too is out at Shepherd Hills West subdivision. We are short 1 signature on that application, and so with the applicant's concurrence, we are requesting that this be continued to your January 9th meeting in 25.
All right. I'm going to say Karen made the motion to continue to January 9th.
Yes.
Haven would seconded that. Any discussion on the motion to continue? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.
Mr. Chair, if you will allow us, I think it would be best if Tanner just went through a presentation, and then that would help you make your best decision.
Sounds good.
Good morning. So item number 3 is a rezoning request to change the zoning designation of 2015 East Anamosa Street from medium density residential district to general commercial district. So this property is zoned medium density residential district. There is commercial land directly to the north. So staff felt that this was an extension of the existing land use patterns along East Anamosa Street. So that commercial zone property is going to start moving a little bit more south along Anamosa. There also is a mobile home park directly adjacent to this property as well. So as part of a future building permit on this property, if it is rezoned, they'll have to install a screening fence, which will shield any commercial activities from view as part of that building permit. So the future land use is urban neighborhood. So the applicant has indicated that they want to rezone this property to accommodate a strip mall and an office building on the property. And that future land use does support professional offices. The urban neighborhood supports professional offices and supports neighborhood serving retail. So there is support in the comprehensive plan to rezone that property. So it's located adjacent to East Anamosa Street, which is a principal arterial street, and along Mickelson Drive, which is a minor arterial street on the city's major street plan. So these arterial streets are well suited to accommodate traffic generated by commercial development. As part of a building permit, if the proposed use exceeds the peak hour, 100 peak hour trips, an update to the traffic impact study will be required. So the streets are designed to accommodate commercial development, and that there's that safeguard on the traffic impact study as well. So public notice was posted on the property. This is looking east on East Anamosa and looking west along that same street. So staff is recommending that this item be approved. We think it's an extension of the commercial land use pattern in this area. There's some safeguards like that traffic impact study, that screening fence, and the adjacent streets are designed to accommodate commercial traffic. So with that, I'll stand by it for any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Vicky?
Thank you. So, as you know, development in this city has evolved over time. And there were many years ago where when we would get master plans, we would see those neighborhood commercial nodes within large residential areas. That has been less often proposed, or they're originally shown as commercial and then they come in and change the master plan to show maybe apartments or additional residential. And one of the comments we get for those that are moving into these areas is that there aren't enough services, that they're having to drive such a distance. In this case, because of that street networking classification of the streets, the regulations within the general commercial do provide for that screening, traffic study when needed, depending upon the use. We thought this would be a great opportunity in Shepherd Hills to try again to secure and provide some additional services. It will be employment opportunities for those that live there, but it will also be service opportunities for them as well. There are uses within the general commercial district that are conditional, and they're conditional for a reason. Let's just say a casino. That is a conditional use permit because it requires the on-sale liquor license. That probably would not be appropriate at this location. We have a significant amount of residential in the area, and so those are the types of things that would be brought back to you for final decision. But if someone were to stand up a retail outlet, a strip mall with a hair salon, a dog grooming business, even a convenience store, these are all things that could serve that neighborhood, should just be permitted with the building permit. And then the standing regulations that deal with access, traffic, screening, etc., would be safeguards for the neighborhood. So with that, we are requesting that this rezone be approved.
All right. Thank you for the presentation. Haven?
Excuse me, you might have mentioned this, but if I'm not mistaken, Mickelson from Highway 44, Highway 44 up to Anamosa what does that classify it as, a collector or a?
It's a minor arterial street.
But it is I've been on that stretch. It's kind of a main connector between those two locations. I think would probably see reasonable heavy use. And I do note that this lot is on Mickelson, so I can certainly understand the commercial aspects of this and appreciate the comments here from Vicky.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this one? Karen? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move approval of the rezone. I think it's appropriate.
All right. So Karen moved approval of the rezone to general commercial. Vince seconded that motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4.
Good morning, Kip Harrington, Long Range Planning. Item number 4 is an amendment to the comprehensive plan to revise the major street plan by reclassifying Creek Drive between East Anamosa Street and South Dakota Highway 44 from a minor arterial street to a collector street. Go through some slides right here. As you may recall, back in October, on October 24th, staff asked the Planning Commission to sponsor a comprehensive plan amendment to reclassify this portion. The history behind this, as you can see on the map here, an applicant came in as a property owner and applied to change a portion of Creek Drive between East Philadelphia and Viewfield from a minor arterial to a collector street. And in discussions with the development review team, we felt that that little portion didn't exactly make sense. We should take a look at a much larger portion of Creek Drive. So I'll skip through these ones because they're the old ones. And as so you can see here, this is the existing current major street plan. To the north of Anamosa Street, Creek Drive is a collector street, and then it becomes a minor arterial to the south. And then the area that's dashed, that was the area that was proposed to become a collector, and then back to a minor arterial to the south. So that doesn't really make sense from a road networking standpoint, from going from a minor arterial to a collector back to a minor arterial in such a short stretch. So we looked at that entire segment of creek from Anamosa to South Dakota Highway 44, as those are the two logical termini for that change in the major street plan. So this is the map of the major street plan existing over here on to the left, proposed to the right. So you can see Creek Drive, this segment here is currently a minor arterial, and then over here it's proposed to be a collector. A couple things to note about this as far as the street networking goes. If you can see over here, the spacing between Campbell and Creek and Mickelson is quite tight, so there really is no need for 3 arterial streets in that tight of a segment. And so we decided that, talking with the development review team and our engineers, that Creek Drive will actually function more as a collector street, with Campbell Street and Mickelson Drive anticipated to take the majority of the traffic that's connecting South Dakota Highway 44 and Anamosa Street. Also, if you look to this intersection with South Dakota Highway 44, Creek Drive is an offset intersection, which does not allow for signalization, so therefore it doesn't really make sense to have an arterial there since you can't have a signal. And then at the north end, the same thing, where it intersects Anamosa Street, the spacing between Creek Drive and East North Street is not enough to support a traffic signal there. So generally where you have 2 arterials meet, you may have signalization at some point, and this doesn't really warrant that. Looking at some site photos, this is at the north end of the southern portion of Creek Drive. This is looking at the property of the preliminary subdivision plan that was just brought in. That was item number 2 that was continued. This is also really close to item number 3 of the rezone. So this is looking north from the current terminus of Creek Drive. And then this is looking south along that roadway. One thing to note as well is there is this large electrical substation right here, and there are some very large transmission line power poles that are located really close to the roadway. So if it were ever to be developed as an arterial street and widened, then those power lines would have to be moved at significant expense, and it would be a challenge to move those. Again, supporting the reason for the reclassification to a collector street. And then this is looking south from the northern portion of Creek Drive. Again, this is into that property that's in the preliminary subdivision plan on item number 2 that you'll see in January. And then this is looking north along Creek Drive. You can see some of the existing development. Again, not a lot of development there, but there is some residential over here to the right, and that does also support this classification as a collector. And with that, staff recommends approval of the comprehensive plan amendment. If there are any questions, I'll stand by.
Thanks, Kip. Haven?
Thank you. You may have mentioned it, but just for our information, what's the difference between the minor arterial and the collector for purposes of planning?
So generally, an arterial street carries more traffic than a collector. So if you think of the roadway network as, say, like your circulatory system, you've got your capillaries, which are your local streets. They carry a little bit. Then you move on to your collector streets, which carry more, and then they feed into your arterial streets, which are generally meant to move traffic across the community. So Creek Drive, in this case, would serve to just funnel that traffic from this neighborhood out to the arterial streets, mainly at this point, Highway 44 and East Anamosa Street. As far as the criteria in the infrastructure design criteria manual, collector street requires considerably less right-of-way. It requires 68 feet of right-of-way, and I don't remember the 26 feet of pavement. Thank you, Vicki. And a minor arterial street requires 100 feet of right-of-way, and Vicki, how much? 36 feet of pavement. Vicki knows the IDCM a little better than me. She's been here a little longer. So it's significantly less right-of-way, significantly less pavement, and again, it functions as a collector street based on the spacing of our roadway network. You may notice to the south of Highway 44, Creek Drive is still shown as a minor arterial street because Mickelson does not extend south, so there it does function as more of an arterial street where it may eventually connect down to the south in the future.
All right, anything else for staff or comments on this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Vince made the motion to approve item 4, and Brooke seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item number 5.
Can't remember how to get it into full screen. Deal with that.
Good morning, Chair, Commission, Cassie Hayes, current planner. So item number 5 before you is a conditional use permit for something you don't see often. It's a conditional use permit for an indoor shooting range. So this property is located at 413 North Campbell Street. Excuse me. A lot of you would know this as where the old Kmart was. This property is currently zoned general commercial district with a future land use of mixed use commercial. And this property is accessed off of North Campbell Street, which is classified as a principal arterial street. What they are proposing to do here is construct an indoor shooting range known as Midwest Shooting Center, which will occupy approximately 19,600 square feet in the southeast quadrant of that existing multi-tenant building that is up there. It is going to operate under a franchise with local franchise owners that will serve as the management. This will be a full-service range and retail business that offers a variety of services, including a shooting range, retail sales of firearms and ammunition, membership, training, gunsmithing, and events. What they are proposing to do is be open to the public, and they will accept patrons of any skill level from beginner to advanced. Their proposed hours of operation are Tuesday through Thursday from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m., Friday and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then being closed on Monday. So this gives you kind of a small scale of what the range features will be. So I'll kind of go through them a little bit to point out a few things. There will be 2 separate shooting ranges. You can see them down here in this south area. So 2 separate ranges right here. Each of them will have 7 shooting stalls, so a maximum of 14 shooters at one time. There are 2 separated viewing areas so that patrons can observe what's going on in the shooting ranges. There's a range officer room in that area as well, where there will be a trained employee that can monitor the ranges. There's a check-in desk, there's employee offices, break rooms, and meeting rooms. There's a large retail sales area, which is this whole area in here. They do also have a classroom, an event room, their stock room and storage room, and then a members room as well. They have submitted some extensive safety plans. You guys saw the 100+ page attachments. So they do have extensive safety plans that cover everything from hazard assessment and communication, accidents, range maintenance, hearing conservation, lead compliance, air sampling, respiratory protection. So they do have extensive safety plans through that franchise. They also do have a security plan that has a 3-prong approach to it. They will have an alarm system that provides motion sensors and door contacts at all of the ingress and egress locations. There's glass break sensors in the lobby and any areas with glass. And then it also does have a connection to a monitoring company that can dispatch emergency services if needed. There is also an access control system that has card readers for all the doors that lead into the stock room and the storage room and receiving areas anywhere where that ammunition could potentially be stored. board. There's also card readers that lead into the range to control who can enter to make sure that everybody's checked in appropriately. And it also has a feature that will only allow one door of the range to open at a time to try to help mitigate some of the noise that escapes the range as well. And then they do have a CCTV system that will provide camera coverage and monitoring for all of the ingress and egress doors, the stock room, the retail area, and each point of sale location as well. They have also provided an ammunition storage plan. Their backstock ammunition that is stored in the storage room, like I said, will be under key card access security. So only certain employees that have that level of access will have access to the stock room, and it's also under monitoring as well. And then the retail area is under continuous monitoring with employees there at all times during operating hours. They do also have a HVAC system that allows for temperature control monitoring 24/7 to ensure that the climate within the facility stays appropriate for the storage of ammunition and the safe storage of ammunition. So this kind of gives a little bit more of a floor plan, a little bit closer image of it. This is what the exterior of this building is proposed to look like. As you can see, they are installing the required ventilation system will be a rooftop unit, so that will be installed on the top. And then this elevation down here gives you an idea of what signage they're proposing to put up. So just some wall signage, and then also adding to that monument sign that's up there as well. One thing I do want to note is there is property containing a religious assembly facility about 200 feet southwest of this property. By our ordinance and the way that our ordinance reads, they have to do what they can to make sure that ingress and egress is oriented in a way so that it does not conflict with that. So the ingress and egress for the church facility is pointed north towards East Philadelphia Street. The ingress egress for the shooting range will face east, so their ingress egress will be over here. So as best they can, that orients them so they're not in direct conflict. And this is looking at their parking lot and their landscaping. This gives you an idea of where that religious assembly facility is. This is the building currently, looking directly at where that suite will be. This is the additional parking area that's to the north of the property. There's their monument sign and the businesses that are located north of this property as well. There's a picture from the corner of the building to that religious assembly facility. North Campbell Street looking north and south. And then here's East Philadelphia Street looking west and east. So ultimately, staff has reviewed this extensively. The range will be equipped also with soundproofing mechanisms, ballistic protective measures, and a ventilation system that prevents the buildup of noxious gases and also filters the lead particulate from the air. The proposed range will be the first indoor shooting range that has been located in Rapid City since the passing of the ordinance in September 2023, which added indoor shooting ranges as a permitted or conditional use in general commercial, light industrial, and heavy industrial zoning districts and the public district. So this is a pretty unique amenity within the community, and it will operate within an established commercial corridor, completely within an established multi-tenant building, and does allow for revitalization of this area as it is a community activity center as identified in Plan Rapid City. So with that, we are recommending approval with the stipulations outlined in the report, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. I'm sure this was a lot of research to go through. Anything from the commission on this one? Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question about general commercial and mixed use. Is there a plan to change it to mixed use, or?
The future land use of it is mixed use commercial.
And what's the primary difference between those?
Mr. Chair.
Vicki?
So mixed-use commercial, it identifies various zoning designations. The primary zoning that's supported in mixed use is general commercial. So this aligns very well with not only the existing zoning, but where we see this property should remain long-term.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is more to who's going to run the establishment, and I did read, their letter and stuff, so I understand what they're saying. The gentleman that would be one of the managers is in the Air Force and has to be there for another year or so, 2 years probably, 26. And my question, I guess, is down the road, if that person gets deployed someplace else, would that make a difference? Or if they relocate someplace else and somebody else comes in, would they have to come back to have a different manager? Or it would just be part of the standard things that people do?
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
and I'm not sure if the applicant is in the audience, and perhaps they can best say what their plan is. But for us, for purposes of approving the conditional use permit, we approve it for the property, the use, and for the operational plan. It doesn't specify and require that a person specific remain the manager, but that it does remain under direct management at all times.
Okay, thank you. That's kind of what I thought, but I just wanted to clarify. And I know this is a franchise, so I assume that they've done this a lot of places, and you can tell by the 100 pages that they're pretty used to what they're doing. So I just wanted to double check on the management side. So,
Mr. Chair,
thanks.
Vicki?
that is a really good comment, Karen. They were instrumental in us even bringing forward this ordinance amendment. So we did get to know their prior locations and operational plan quite well. They come with a lot of experience. So I think that benefits Rapid City too, to have our very first indoor shooting range. It will really be a template that we use for others that want to bring forward similar use.
Thank you, Vicki, and I'm glad that we're going to have something that's professional that comes in, and it's something that's needed in the community, I think. So, thank you.
Do you like to make a comment on this, or?
Renee Catron with
Yeah.
Advanced Design. I was just, in case Karen needed more clarification.
Okay.
Okay.
Vicki, you kind of answered my question. I was guessing, but I wanted to verify that you've looked at other cities' locations of this franchise and they compare, to the location proposed. And that seems like you confirmed that, but.
We did. At the time, Sarah Hansel and her planner, Jonathan Howard, took lead on bringing forward this ordinance, and there was extensive history done. Jonathan put together a full spreadsheet on what other communities required, independent of what this particular organization wanted within our regulations. We assured that it aligned quite nicely with what is working in other communities as well.
Great. Appreciate that. Brooke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's a really fantastic use of the end of that property. It's been empty for a while. There's been a big investment in that area. I don't think we could ask for a better project. So with that, I'm just going to make a motion to approve with staff stipulations.
I'll second.
All right. Brooke made the motion as stated. Vince seconded the motion. Any discussion from the commission on the motion to approve? All right. All those in favor of approving item number 5 with the stipulations as listed, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.
Good morning, Chair, Commission, Jessica Olson with Current Planning. Here we have 24 PD 022. This is a major amendment to a final plan development overlay to expand an adult daycare facility on the property located at 4110 Winfield Street. So this property is 0.67 acres. It's already developed with an almost 7,000 square foot building. It's currently used as an adult daycare facility. They also have a 151 square foot shed on the property. So the surrounding uses, and this is in a residential neighborhood, but there's some higher intensity, and there's apartment complex here to the east. There is single family across East Minnesota Street to the north. We have some townhomes that are more apartment style to the west here, and then to the south is an assisted living facility. The building originally was permitted as a group home and then transitioned to the adult daycare facility. So it's zoned medium density residential district, and the adult daycare center is a conditional use in that district. It's been permitted through the PD. There was also an exception granted for the parking in this facility, which they're going to come back for an additional parking exception in this request, as well as they're expanding their operations. The future land use is low density neighborhood. Adult daycare centers are a service provided to the community, and so they're generally accepted in that future land use category. Property is adjacent to East Minnesota Street. It does access off of Winfield Street. East Minnesota is a minor arterial and has other connections to other arterials and collectors in the area, so the amount of traffic can be handled by the current street system in this area. So the applicant is proposing to expand the building here on the east side, you can see, by 833 square feet, and expand the number of staff and clients in the operational plan, which results in the higher parking requirement, as I noted. And so that's actually the operational plan aspect is what's triggering the major amendment. The building expansion is under the 20% rule for the minor amendment. So we're really talking about there's going to be more people on the property and making sure that that fits with the neighborhood and the site plan as proposed. So hours of operation are going to remain as 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Number of staff members will increase from 9 to 11, and the number of guests will increase from 35 to 50. They actually were approved for 40 up to 40, but going from 40 to 50 does trigger that 20% rule. It's about 25% increase in the operational plan. And then the proposed operational plan also results in that increase of the parking spaces. So there is an existing 12 spaces on the property. One of them is an ADA van space. And then the increase in both the staff and the proposed guests would result in a requirement of 16. And so they're requesting that exception to keep the 12 parking spaces on site. And there are alternative methods for getting clients to the property. So they have vans that would go pick people up, bring them there. They also have a decent amount of street parking. The way that the property is laid out, there isn't really an opportunity to expand the parking lot as well. So they've offered alternative means of transportation, as well as there is adequate street parking. So staff recommends approval of that request for the exception from 16 to 12 parking spaces. I'll also note, so the landscaping is adequate. It exceeds the requirement. When I was reviewing this, I noticed that, so it was originally a group home. It transitioned to the adult daycare center. Somewhere in the process, the review actually looked at the setbacks using the dwelling setbacks. In the medium density residential district, there's a difference between if it's a dwelling or if it's another primary use, so a non-residential use in the case of the adult daycare center. And so during this re-review, we recognized that there are some non-conforming setbacks here, and so wanted to recognize that. And so the applicant did request exceptions to those existing setbacks, and staff recommends approval of that. There's adequate spacing. At the north and the south is where the issue is with the encroachment. To the south, there's adequate spacing to that assisted living center, and then to the north, there's plenty of room between East Minnesota Street and the building for visibility. The expansion does encroach into the eastern setback as well. So the setback's 35 feet. It would be about 33.8, so very minimal request to an exception to that east side setback. The building, the apartment complex to the east there, the apartment building itself is at least 38 feet from the property line. So there's a good amount of spacing there. There's also a drive aisle for their parking lot. So there's not an opportunity for that apartment complex to encroach toward this property either. So recognizing there is adequate spacing, the request is very minimal. Staff recommends approval of that exception to the east side setback as well. So So let's look around. And I will give them benefit of the doubt here. This was around lunchtime. And so their parking lot is a bit busier, but there was still a lot of street parking in the area. And they did have some of their vans there at the time. But the alternate proposal, we actually reviewed the other adult daycare center that they have kind of near East North Street. They're going to be keeping their vans on that property instead of storing them here. So they would be here temporarily parked, but most of the time would be at the other location. And I think that one was addressed off Century Road. So let me go back here. We're looking east, right at the property in their parking lot and the entrance. This is looking north toward East Minnesota Street as well. You can note that street parking there is being utilized. We're looking southeast here. That's the assisted living center that I noted. Their parking lot really isn't fully utilized either. They did post notice for this one. We're on East Minnesota Street looking more west, a little southwest here. This is the back side of their property. You can note that spacing distance for the setback on the east side of the property. We're looking south here. Looking west, again down East Minnesota. There are a lot of, or there is a pretty decent sidewalk network in this area as well. Those are the townhomes across Winfield Street to the west. Again, street parking on both sides of their access. And then that's that spacing between the existing buildings as noted for the exception to the existing setbacks. So staff is recommending approval of the major amendment to the plan development overlay with the stipulations noted in the report, including the approval of the requested exceptions to reduce the parking requirement and the required setbacks on the north, east, and south sides. I'll stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Got a question about that encroachment on the east side property. So is that an access lane or is that an actual parking lot for that apartment complex on the east side of this property?
Yeah, let's go back. I think it shows it in here. So
Yes.
it's essentially a driveway that connects the two parking lots for that facility. So you've got
Okay.
your entrance here. These are technically, we call them access aisles, but it's serviced like a driveway.
Right.
And it just leads into it's not a road.
And so on that, in that same area there, that's on a slope. It's on a downhill slope from the center to that driveway. It's on a downhill slope.
Yeah, let's look at the image there.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, there is a general slope in that area. And it looks like there are some utilities along here as well. I believe that's what those flags are showing.
And one last question on that, on Winfield. There's plenty of street parking there, and obviously on the apartment or the townhouses on the other side of the street, there's no way to park on that side of the street, is there?
There was a vehicle
Right there.
parked on that side.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room if you have people parking on both sides of the street.
And if you could leave this one up for just a second, so if you go further onto the left side of this picture, there's some construction. Do you know what construction is taking place right now on
I know. Yeah, I noticed it at the site visit, but I couldn't tell you what it is. I don't. Dan? No.
Okay.
No,
All
sorry.
right. Thank you.
Haven?
Well, this property has functioned as an adult daycare center for some time, so I assume they have got a pretty good idea of the parking issues. But that was one of the things I wanted to discuss. With 12 spaces, there's 11 employees. I assume they're not going to, probably won't be there all there at the same time. But it does seem like there's a parking issue. I see there is a fair amount of parking on the street, but I would think that there would still be a lot of people coming, dropping off people there and picking up people, so there'd be an issue sometime in the morning and sometime later in the afternoon where people are coming and going to pick up or drop off people or pick up people.
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
that is a great comment, Haven, and an obvious one that should be made. In this instance, the vans or buses that they have are used quite well in going out into the neighborhoods, picking up those that will be attending the daycare during the day. And again, in the evening, they provide this service both directions. Similar to a child care center, it's creating 1 or 2 spaces that you hold and reserve as a drop-off zone. That turnover in getting people in and out, because there are so many different start times for work throughout the community when families, those that do choose to drop off their loved one, it's not as it used to be, everyone started at 8 and stopped at 5. There's just so many different start and stop times during the day. So currently, we have not seen a parking issue with this property. With the acknowledgement that they will be storing the vans at the other location that you recently approved up by the Menards area, that will free up those 2 other spaces that would allow for the additional employees to then join the team. And granted, there will be those that do use that street parking, but having been someone that had a family member at this facility for an extended period of time, they hold and reserve parking on site for the customers' families to come in so that you can safely get them in and out of the vehicles. So we do believe that while it is an exception, the service that they're providing this community is extreme. The parking both on site and with the street parking does meet the need, and this is one of those that we felt that the benefit to the community outweighed the constraint of parking, and we're supporting that exception request.
All right, you kind of made my comment for me. I compare this to a child care center. I think that most people that use this facility are not driving there, much like the kids are not driving to their daycares. So as long as they have a plan and they've been operating here, so I totally trust that they have a plan for those pickup and drop off times. Seems like a wonderful expansion of a needed use. Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, and I agree. Full disclosure, I walk by this place every day, almost every day anyway. And they upkeep it well. And as far as the parking, I've never seen a problem. And the only reason why I was concerned about the construction that's taking place, I don't know what kind of building or what's going in that area, but at least on this side of the street that where we see these cars, it can go all the way down to, and I forget the name of that street, but and it's even within walking distance of Parkview Park. So, I mean, there is additional parking in this area. I was concerned at first, but I'm not, and I'm making a motion to approve it with stipulations that are outlined by the staff.
Is there a second to Vince's motion to approve? Mike Gallagher seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the end of the, I'll call it the regular agenda. Any staff items or commission items today?
A couple items,
Yeah.
if you allow, Mr. Chair. First, happy holidays. It just seems like just the other day we were talking about Thanksgiving, and here we are coming up into Christmas. This is your last meeting in '24. Our next meeting isn't until January 9th. We, several years ago, worked with the Planning Commission, and because it was so difficult to get quorum right before Christmas every year, and it was hard on the applicants too to have to stop plans, stay in town to attend this meeting, the decision was made that we would not have that second meeting in December, and that's worked very well. So thank you. That gives staff a little break too from our hamster wheel. So happy holidays. It just seems like it snuck up on us this year. The other news that I'd like to share with you is exciting and sad. Many of you may have heard already that Sarah Hansel will be leaving the city. And I'm so glad that she came this morning, and I want to give her that opportunity so that she can share with you what her next venture might be. But I was just sitting here during the meeting, just jotting down some notes of the impact that Sarah has had on the 11 years that she's been with the city. She stood up a draft affordable housing policy for the city, and this is so beautifully scripted and written. One day, once I sat in the director's seat, I went to Sarah and I said, who wrote this? I mean, it's just such a professional document, and she did. It's an amazing document. She took lead on creating the urban commercial district. In my 30 years here, we've only added one additional zoning district, and Sarah took lead on that. She's been instrumental in the downtown master plan. She was a key member of bringing forward the IPS smart meters. Think how that's changed our downtown. She's been a key element of our historic preservation committee, the training sessions that she's created, the educational components. She and Kinsley recently worked together to bring forward an amazing document on the history of how this is created, state regulations, and it's such helpful information that will be a part of what we use forever. Until recently, she was key on our tax increment finance district reviews. Karen, you remember what a tasking duty that is on time. She is our lead on the current comprehensive plan amendment. We've got great staff that are going to fill in that void, but she will be dearly missed. We've invited her to become a part of the study group as a citizen. She helped stand up and just with a conversation with the member of Elevate, this company called Urban 3 was acknowledged to be able to bring forward a study to show where profit and loss is felt throughout the community when we see development happen, so we can better plan what is the right development for our community. Sarah was key on getting that even to be considered. And it was a big lift for us to get that through the city council. And she has been instrumental on the creation of the innovation district. And I'm leaving out probably 100 other things, but her fingerprint will be here for all of us to work from and enjoy for years and years to come. So it is with sadness that we'll be losing Sarah, but I'd like to turn the floor over to Sarah now so that she can share her next journey. Oh, you go with it.
We didn't rehearse this. I need to compose myself. Thank you for that. I'm sure you can all imagine how impossible all of those things would be without the team that is up here and throughout the rest of this building. And that's the first thing that needs to be said. We have the best team here. The absolute best, amazing people, talented, dedicated, beautiful human souls who are involved in the future of the city and the day-to-day business. And it's just been my sincere privilege and honor to be a part of that. So I just simply wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to work alongside you all. It's been amazing to get to know you. You ask amazing questions, you support staff, you are so pivotal in the work that we do. Any professional who enters into the planning or design field, the work that they do with elected and appointed officials is so instrumental. And I can't imagine a more productive, positive group than this to work with and be part of that. So I just want to thank you for the experience that we've had together and just say thank you. And I look forward to seeing you, though our paths won't cross here at City Hall, just elsewhere in the community and community events and around town. So I think there's probably other things I should be saying and want to say, but I'm starting to choke up. So happy holidays and just thank you, and please stay connected. And I will miss you all very, very much. So thank you, everyone.
No, thank you, Sarah. We really appreciated everything, every bit of effort. Vicki said void. That word carries a strong meaning in this. You're going on to another professional opportunity will leave a void. And I hope that you're willing to come here, sit out in the audience, and take part in those discussions in the community that are important to you.
Thank you.
Karen?
I also want to say thank you. Sarah's been instrumental in getting the tax increment project going forward and keep on going forward. And she's learned a lot, and we've learned a lot. And it's just been a pleasure to work with you. So I'm glad you're staying in the community, though. Thanks.
That's right. Vince?
Sarah, thank you. You know, it's you even tolerate some of the dumb questions that I've asked. So I'll never forget the fact that when I mentioned something about plastic or artificial trees on Main Street, you just said, "Oh, okay." Yeah. So it was. You've got the right attitude. I look forward to seeing you around. Thank you for everything.
Pat?
Thank you. I've worked with this young lady for many, many years in many different aspects of historic preservation, obviously now on the council, and just being a brain that I could pick, just to get her knowledge with historic preservation and all other aspects of city that I'm involved in. And I do appreciate what you have done and what you have been to the city and what you have brought to the city. Obviously, there's a lot that we don't know that will be hidden, but will come out in future, I guess, events of what as the city grows and how we proceed in that growth. But just realize that you have been a major impact in Rapid City the time you've been here, and well appreciated. Thank you.
Brooke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, I am ditto with all the comments. And one of the things I was just thinking is look at how many volunteer opportunities you have to stay involved with the Historic Commission, to be on the short-term rental plan. I mean, I did, in full disclosure, tell Sarah she should just try to get appointed to the Planning Commission. Like, I think that all would work. But I wish you the very best of luck. It is a loss, but if it's good for you, then that's what matters most. So thank you.
All right, tough to move on from this, but anything else from the commission? Vicki?
Mr. Chair, I think the thing that I will miss the most is, and you've all seen it, there are few that speak with such elegance and grace than Sarah. When she's making a presentation, it's unbelievable. You know, I said to her the other day, when I grow up, I want to be just like her. I'm more of that bull in a china store. But we've all learned that there is such a professional, graceful approach that one can take to send out your message that allows the receiver to actually hear what you're saying. And Sarah is unsurpassed in her abilities to do that. And that's one of the things that we at the city will absolutely miss the most.
Yeah, shoot. Yeah. I'm just going to ask for a motion to adjourn unless somebody else has other business.
I'll second it.
All right, Mike Gallagher made the motion. Vince seconded that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.